Hello, you're watching Calling All Stations, Woodford Wells Layout Update 2. Apologies, I was trying to get in another layout update before this, once I'd finished building the baseboard and laying the track. But whilst I had the time and the days off to do it, I cracked on with a couple more jobs. So now is a really good time to update you on the progress of the layout and to talk about some of the ideas I'm starting to formulate about some of the areas within it. So starting with the baseboards, I actually ordered these from a company called Model Railway Solutions. They cost about £50 each. There's two baseboards, 5 foot by 1 foot on this end and then another 5 foot by 1 foot in the other end, and then separated in the middle here, and I've put those catches in myself and the cable linkage in myself. But the boards cost about £50 each, which does sound expensive considering it's fairly easy to go out and just buy some wood and do this sort of thing yourself. But I wanted to get this phase absolutely perfect, and the construction and craftsmanship of the Model Railway Solutions product here is absolutely fantastic. I can't fault them on it at all, and it's I think worth every penny considering I want this stage to be absolutely spot on. And the other thing I was sort of worried about was getting this join perfect, and it is perfect. It matches up absolutely incredibly, and all I had to do was add some catches and that's it. It matches up every time and it's perfect. So the kits, they come in flat pack kits, kind of like an IKEA pack, and you get all the nails and screws and glue to put it together yourself. It's absolutely dead easy. I totally recommend them. And the other thing that really attracted me to these boards were, and I'm putting some pictures up of the construction process on your screen now. Underneath they've got braces, but within the braces are pre-drilled holes for wiring and supporting such things. And I thought, well, you know what, to make something as good myself, I'd probably have to shell out a little bit on some decent tools and decent workbench and all that kind of stuff. And by the time I've spent money on that, actually I'm probably approaching the cost per board of £50 and £100 for the total layout. So I went with Model Railway Solutions. I'm really happy with the product. The craftsmanship is superb. I'm dead happy. Okay, moving on to the track laying process itself, and you'll notice I've actually made a couple of changes since my first plan and my first update. I'm going to put the original design up on your screen now, and the first change I made, or rather the first change that I omitted, was leaving out the runaround loop in the station. So there should be a runaround loop in the station as per my original design. This was sort of done for two reasons. The first was I'd kind of watched a couple of updates on other YouTubers and said that really to get a station runaround loop in without the coaches hitting the station itself, you really needed the longest length point or longest turnout, of which I didn't really have room for, or it wouldn't have looked too in keeping with the rest of the station. The second reason really was I didn't see much need for it. I mean, yes, it would have given me a little bit more operational flexibility, but if a loco hauled train comes into the station and detaches from its rake of coach or wagons using the magnet down here, you should just be able to see it behind the Class 128 if the camera focuses. There we go, the two silver kind of plates underneath the track, those are the magnets that detach the KD couplers. So if a rake of coaches hauled by a loco came in and the loco detached using the magnets, I can just use a shunter from the yard to come and collect the rake of coaches and pull it into the yard and free the loco from the station. I didn't really see much more benefit from having the runaround in the station itself. Maybe it would have given me some more flexibility, but I think that I've got a reason to use another loco to pull out the coaches. The second update I've done, or the second alteration I've made to my original plan, and I'll just flash that up on the screen again, is the third siding, or the third kind of Coachworks road, which is on the right hand side there. That wasn't in my original plan, purely because I didn't really know how it was going to look, how much room I would have had if I had added it in at that stage. And because I didn't add the runaround loop in the station, I had a couple of sets of points spare, so I added in that extra siding. So what I'm thinking at the moment is, and what I've laid the buildings out sort of to demonstrate, is at the end there's kind of a shed area, and the two roads that are closer together, they'll be for storing rakes of coaches or rakes of wagons, and then the third road that kind of branches off a little bit further to the side, and I've already put in some kind of infrastructure for it. This will be to house Locos, refueling points, and it will be kind of a road for storing Locos rather than coaches. The final update I made to the design, and this was purely because I had a little bit of track left and a little bit of point work left, was this little head shunt, this little pilot area here, which will kind of probably store the Class 03 that's currently being refueled. That will sort of live here in this area and come out to work when it needs to move a rake of coaches in from the main two platforms. So I can't remember if I mentioned in my last video, but all the track and point work is Pecco Code 75. I think it looks really good. It was pretty easy to lay. The only difference with this and set track is the holes for the track pins are not pre-drilled. So you do need to get yourself a little kind of a little push drill, or a pencil drill. I can't quite remember the exact term for them, but they're basically fine drills that you can drill fine holes in without having to get out your power tools. So that's the only thing that's really time consuming, I suppose. It's not difficult, it's just a bit time consuming to drill all those holes. It actually took me 2 solid days just to lay the track, but I was getting it as good as I could, so I wasn't rushing the job. I wanted to spend time over it, and I'm really happy with the progress, and I'm really happy with the finish of the track. So I'll talk about some of the buildings that I've chosen so far. The platforms themselves are Metcalf kits. You can kind of construct them to any shape you want. Loads of people use these, they're really popular. So I've got my main platform one here, which will accommodate the 4-car train, or Loco and 3 coaches. There's a tiny area at the end for passengers to walk around, and don't forget this is based on Chinkford station in North London, so that's true to real life. In Chinkford there is at the end a kind of little walkway for passengers to get between 2 platforms. There isn't a facility there, there isn't another cross-platform facility, there's no bridge. There used to apparently be a subway, and I'm actually reading a book at the moment, a kind of research book, to see what the line was like in times gone by, to see what some of the structures looked like on that particular line. There was apparently a subway on Chinkford station that allowed you to get from platforms 1 to 2 and 3, and this was originally there because there was no walk around point at the end of the platform. The lines actually continued. There was a proposed extension towards High Beach and Epping, which never materialised. So the design of the station was originally intended to be a through platform, so there was no end point for passengers to walk around. That came later in sort of the mid to late 60s. And on that note, actually, you'll notice that I've run the track. If I kind of focus in, I've run the track right up to the edge of the baseboard, and I've completely forgot to mention this on my original design. Run the track completely up to the edge of the baseboard, that side as well as on this side as well, which will give me future scope to expand the layout, either by putting in a full return loop, or to carry on and make the layout longer, or to kind of move across a wall perhaps. It's kind of future proofed. I didn't want to move to a new place one day and find that, oh, you know what, I should have designed it differently and I didn't have that feature installed. This end I'm just purely going to put up a wall, and same again at the other end really, and should I ever decide to continue the layout, either by a runaround loop or just expanding the layout generally, I can take those things down and slightly alter the track plan maybe, but I don't have to do much to the track on the original baseboards. It runs up to the edge ready for expansion. Anyway, back to the main station. The other thing I've done, which is slightly different to the original design, is I've shortened this platform length, illustrated by the buffer stop being far shorter than where the actual track terminates. I'm going to truncate the line here just behind this buffer stop. I'm basically waiting to get hold of the Bachmann Scenecraft Suburban station, which I'm going to put there. Incidentally, not the redesigned Bachmann Scenecraft station that they're going to bring out soon. I'm going to try and get hold of the old one that's out of stock in most places but seems to be on eBay in a few places. I think looking at that one, it looks similar to what I want to model. It looks similar to North London area, to Chinkford, and I think it will fit in much better than the one they're going to bring out in September, October, I think. But anyway, I'm going to truncate this length of track. This will go, and this still accommodates comfortably a 2-car train in that bay platform, and I think that's absolutely adequate, seeing as I've got space for a 4-car train and just about a 3-car train in platform 2. The other thing I'm going to do is slightly lengthen this sort of pilot head shunt area and probably put in some kind of parcel depot here. I've got my eye on another Bachmann building for that, or maybe a Metcalf kit. Haven't quite decided, but there's going to be a sort of parcel or goods unloading facility here, which will probably be used by the Class 128 BR parcel service livery. So that can come into platform 3 and then shunt into the parcel depot. All the buildings I've bought so far have been from the Bachmann Scenecraft range. So this is a Bachmann Scenecraft BR type signal box. There's a few on the line that are kind of like this, or a few in London I've seen that kind of have this sort of 30s, 40s design, I think it is. Very functional. Not too elaborate. That's exactly what I want for the look. Don't forget, this is going to be mid-80s, pushing towards the 90s, Network Southeast era, BR Network Southeast era station. So it's not going to be too elaborate. And you can see I've started to add in those little Network Southeast touches by these Pico buffer stops, which are little kits, and you paint them whatever colour you want. And I've also added in Train Tech buffer stop lights. And the whole operation is DCC, so you just clip these into the track and they're good to go. You don't have to do any wiring for those, dead easy. So talking about the DCC wiring and the lights, talk a bit about the point motors now that I've used. Underneath the board, and I'll put up a picture now, they're all Cobalt IP digital point motors. If you've heard of these, they are fairly expensive, but they come with the DCC accessory decoder already inside them. So they are kind of an all-in-one solution, which is fairly hard to come across for point motors. Most people go for the Pecco PO11s, I think, and then fit a decoder switch to them. I thought I'd just go for ease and put in the money and buy something that was going to sort of pretty much work out the box. All you have to do is connect 2 DCC wires from the point motors to your bus, and then if you're using Electrofrog points, which I mostly am apart from the slip switches here, the slip turnouts here and here, You connect your bus wire to the point motor. There's a dedicated switch for that. There are also all sorts of other dedicated switches if you wanted them to control signalling as well and other things. But basically those three inputs were all the ones that I needed at this stage. You just connect the two DCC wires to your DCC bus wire, the extra one to your frog polarity switch, and that's it, you're good to go. You don't have to do any soldering, it's all push terminals. They were dead easy and I had no issues with any of them. The only one I had a slight problem with was because I connected the wires up slightly the wrong way around. I plugged them into the other end. There's kind of a row of terminal switches at the other end as things for controlling signals and feedback loops and all other manner of exciting things. I accidentally connected the DCC bus wires into there and I think it basically blew up the point motor. It stopped working after that. But after that I was pretty careful to get them all around the right way, and none of them have caused me any issues. The only other slight issue, and it's not really an issue or a problem, it's sort of me misunderstanding or not quite getting the point motor's setup process or configuration in DCC just yet, is when you turn them on, or turn the layout on rather, they all go into a configuration mode, or sort of a self-testing mode, which means they set to the right, they set to the left, and then they set to the centre, and will stay like that until you pick a direction. And when you turn the layout on for the first time, they all 12 of them, or all 11 I think, simultaneously do that, and it's actually really quite noisy. I've read the instructions 100 times. I've tried the reprogramming method. Basically it tells you to set the address to be 198, I think, a DCC address of 198, and then to set it to the address that you want. I've set it that way 100 times and I cannot get it to turn off. I don't know if it's the controller I'm using, and I'll get on to a bit about that in a minute. Whether it's the method I'm doing is wrong, I don't know. I'm completely confused. So if anybody knows the solution to that, how to turn the IP Cobalt digital self-centering configuration off, I'd be most appreciative. Comment below, tell me how to do it. It's not really a problem at the moment, as I said. It just means that I've got to make sure they're all then reset when I actually start to want to move trains over them. The problem is if you don't do that, it doesn't know which way you want to set the frog, and you could cause a short circuit. But as you'll see in a moment, all my routes, or rather all my directions on my layouts, are pre-configured on the controller, so I just have to press one button, and that means fiddle yard 1 to platform 1, and it sets all the points accordingly. So I don't really have to worry about that, but I would like to be able to turn it on without resetting all the points. The other thing is, if you do accidentally cause a short circuit, the controller just turns off. It's a kind of a safety feature, but then because you want to turn it back on really quickly, you then go through the rigmarole of the points resetting, which is slightly annoying. So if anyone knows how to solve it, I'd be very grateful. And then moving on to the other end of the layout, as I said, the third road here is going to be sort of a diesel refueling point, maintenance for loads of locos. So basically I'll just store a few of the locos in this area here, and then the other two roads are going to be for storing regs of coaches whilst the train's being turned around, whilst the train's being cleaned, and returned back to the platform. And then finally at the end we have a little shed. I suppose it's not big enough to be a proper loco maintenance facility, but it's kind of just an undercover area for workers to do a little bit of maintenance on coaches or locos. Don't forget the two lines behind there, kind of the fiddle yard area, and this will eventually be hidden by a scenic brake or a kind of another backboard kind of there, and that piece of wood over there will eventually slot down here. I'll cut that to size and slot it along here. So just before I sign off, I just want to talk a little bit about the DCC Controller System that I bought. I spent a long time deliberating which system to buy. I had no experience with DCC controllers before this, or really had no benchmark or frame of reference. I looked at the GaugeMaster Prodigy, I looked at the Hornby E-Link system, I looked at the Easy Command system as well. Most of them were pretty decent, but I wanted something that was fairly cost efficient, but with still all the features that you get in sort of a £200–300 controller. Big ask, I know, but in the end I went and got this. And it was a little bit of a gamble, to be honest, because I didn't really know much about it, but I watched lots of videos online and other people using them. People seem to really rate them, but not many people in the UK seem to use this system. This is a Roco Z21, and you can't buy this off the shelf. This particular unit, you can't buy it off the shelf. It usually comes in a Roco starter set that's got a Loco, coaches, track, and this controller system. But some people in the UK and some people in Germany have started to split up these sets and sell on the controller separately. It cost me about £120, which was pretty much in the ballpark figure I wanted to spend. It comes with this white server box, and it also comes with this Wi-Fi hub. You plug the white server box into the Wi-Fi hub, and then you can basically control your layout from an iPhone app or an Android app, or you can even download some software and do it via your computer. The brilliant thing about this was, if I didn't like the Android app, or I didn't like the iPhone app rather, you can also then upgrade it by buying a handheld controller. And I think it's called the multi-mouse, something like that, the Roco multi-mouse, for another £100. And you can plug it directly into this and use that as the controller. I figured that if I didn't like the app and it didn't work as how I expected it, I could just then go out and buy the extra part. And although that would bring the cost up sort of in line with the GaugeMaster Prodigy, I wouldn't really have lost out. I would have had the opportunity to try controlling it from my phone. Actually, I'm pleased to say that it works brilliantly how I expected it to work. So I can control the layout from my phone, from my iPhone. The app's really simple to use. It's actually really easy to program. Apart from the issue with the points, I'm not sure how to turn off the configuration mode. I think that's maybe because I'm using the app. If I had a dedicated controller, maybe it'd be easier. I don't know. But the app itself, other than that, is really easy to use, and I'll try and show you a bit of that working now. So if I just bring my phone into shot here, this is the Roco app. You've got various programming settings down the bottom, but this is the interesting part, control panel, and I've got all my Locos down at the bottom. This is really difficult to do whilst looking through the viewfinder of the camera. You can switch between your Locos, you can turn the lights on and off, and then you can switch direction, all that kind of funky stuff, all the usual bits and pieces. If you go up to controls at the top, I've already preset up routes, but you can map out all your different points. You can put notes in here so it's easy for you to know which point is which. But I've just set up a load of different routes. So if I press this one, for example, it's going to set all the points from platform 1 to yard 1. So if I just come out of the way for the phone for a second and then refocus the camera, I'm going to press platform 2 to yard 2, and that's going to set... It's going to set all the points for the class 128 to come out of the station. And that's the phone controlling that. You can see the power bar has gone up. And it's going into yard 2. And then I can just press stop. Switch direction. And then let's say I want to bring that into platform 3. I know this is a bit out of focus, but if I platform 3 to yard 2, so it's going to switch the points. Don't know if you saw any of those switch, but it's done that. And now I can send it back the other way, and it's just a case of adjusting the speed with my finger. As I said, the controller gives me scope to buy the Roco multi-mouse if I do want a handheld controller, or it works on Android, so I could get a bigger tablet and control it that way. If you get a bigger tablet, you can have more functionality in view at the same time. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about in this update. I do want to talk about at some point putting DCC chips in Locos. I've fitted them to about 5 Locos so far, with varied results, both in the fitting process and how the Locos run. I was expecting that once you put a DCC chip in a Loco, it would be absolutely brilliant and it would be so much more better than a DC analog system. But actually I've found that's not always the case. But I think I'm going to do written blog posts on those, and I'll do all the individual Locos separately. This class 128 that we're looking at now was probably one of the best of the 5 Locos that I've done. I've done a class 03, class 17, class 47, class 25, and this class 128. This is probably the most impressive. The slow speed running, the kind of smoothness of the motor is absolutely brilliant, and it was actually really easy to fit. You just unscrew a few screws and the body pops off, and that's how it should be. However, that hasn't been the case with all the Locos that I've got, and I will do sort of written posts on that. So that's it for this episode of Calling All Stations Woodford Wells. Let me know again how these updates are going down. Do you prefer them in a video format? I'm still sort of finding my feet with them. It's taken me a long time to record them, but I think once they're edited, it's a lot easier than writing up a blog post and taking pictures and doing all the formatting. It's probably easier to edit the video for me, but I'm just sort of finding my feet of not taking too long to waffle on and re-record bits, but I'm getting there. But do let me know if you like the new video format or if you preferred the old written version. Let me know about those IP Cobalt digital point motors if you've got a solution for that, and stay tuned for more updates soon. See you later.